Hey everyone, Chris Carter here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. It's the Monday episode. The Steelers are through 10 training camp practices. I'm going to give you my recap through several of them and why I think this young defensive line is coming together and fitting the culture. We'll talk about that, how the TJ Watt plan is coming around for the Steelers, and a look at the offensive line with Broderick Jones being back and how they're doing as a unit, all here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making us your first listen every day because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. More on them later. All right, Steelers fans, as I said before, we are through 10 Steelers practices. We last spoke with you guys for our Friday episode leading into the Friday Night Lights practice. Since then, there's been the Friday Night Lights practice, a Saturday practice, and a Sunday fully padded practice. Today, Monday, they are off. Tomorrow, Tuesday, they return to St. Vincent College to practice yet again for practice number 11, setting up the first week of preseason when they play the Jaguars this weekend. Now, let's get to a few things here. Now, the general observations, the defense is still dominating the practices. And again, this was to be expected, especially with the investments they've made on this defense, especially with all the changes that the offense is going through. But man, this defense continues to look sharp even when they're sitting guys out. I broke this down throughout the weekend, but even when Joey Porter Jr. was out, they were still rocking with Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey on the outside, and Brandon Ecclesfield on the inside. They moved guys around. Darius Slay played very well. A lot of the guys on the defense just making plays left and right. But the thing that I think is really coming together about this defense is that these new defensive linemen they've added, both the rookies and the free agent additions, they're making a difference, and they look nasty. And they look like they're fitting the culture of being a strike first type of defense that gets after the quarterback, stuffs the run, and is willing to do the dirty work. Now, of course, the big name here is Derrick Harmon. You're probably wondering how he's done. Derrick Harmon's looked very good in camp. He's made several run stuffs when the fully padded practices. He's gone up in different roles. And I've also saw him on Sunday in a fully padded practice out when they were doing their one-on-ones, offensive line versus defensive line. I saw them line him up like as an edge guy to just see how it went. And he went up against a backup and won. But I did think that was interesting to see them test that out. I don't think they're going to use that much this year, but I think that was them trying to gauge, okay, how flexible is he along the defensive line? Because as you know, Cam Hayward can do that sometimes and just move out there. And if Derrick Harmon can add that to his game, it's going to make him a very versatile and dangerous threat, because right now he's a big, bad man. But you know who's also a big, bad man? Yahya Black, who continues to make me impressed about his skills the more I watch him. And in fact, on Sunday, the Steelers sat down TJ Watt and Cam Hayward to give them rest days. And in doing so, Yahya Black got the call to basically be a starter for a lot of those reps, and looked really good, and especially in two different sets of basically 7 shots. They did 7 shots initially, and then they did at the starter practice like they normally do, and then they did 7 shots sort of as more of like a goal line scenario, but basically the same thing at the end of practice. The end of total of those 7 shots at the beginning and end of practice was 12-2 the defense, and the defensive line played a big part in that. Derrick Harmon, Yahya Black, and you know, especially Keeanu Benton also looking really sharp. Even guys like Daniel Aquale making a difference, making it tougher on the offensive line. They're stunting, they're moving, they're aggressive, and they seem to already be communicating with their teammates and getting to and knowing how to play their role specifically to be a good teammate in a specific situation. Now, you're probably thinking like, well, okay, that sounds cool, but it's a little bit deeper than that, because a big part of what defensive linemen have to do is they have to work in conjunction to sometimes be the guys that take the dirty work. They take on the offensive linemen to let the other guys be the heroes, the guys that are faster, better, quicker athletes. And that's something that I think we're starting to see with this defensive line more and more, and them being able to keep the linebackers clean. And that's something that I asked Patrick Queen about, because that's something that's very important to a defense that wants to get better at stuffing the run like the Steelers do. Here was Patrick Queen when I asked him about that after Sunday's practice.
A lot of defensive linemen, when they come into the league, they don't they try to win their one-on-ones, but they don't understand to keep the linebackers clean is a big part of the role, especially for 3-4 defenses. How have you seen guys like Yahya and Derrick take to that role as far as helping you guys stay clean to be able to read and process an attack?
Yeah, I think it was first day when we was in OTAs and they had a run play, and he kind of like held him up a little bit, and I was able to shoot. He was like, "That's good how you play." But I said, "That is perfect. That's good with me." So, but not every single day they come out, they give their 110% effort. And that's all you can ask for. Every time it's not gonna be perfect. Sometimes they're gonna have to let a guy go, and I'm gonna have to deal with it, and that's how it's supposed to be. I can handle one guy. So, like at the end of the day, if they're making a play, we're good. If I'm making a play, we're good. As long as it's not 10 yards down the field, we can all live with that.
I think it was interesting that Patrick Queen right there saying that, like, hey, like that it's never been a problem with these guys. They were doing that stuff before the pads were even on, before they even got to training camp, back in OTAs and minicamp. I think it's a good sign as far as the mental capacity of these guys. But again, when I was, part of the scrum that was interviewing Derrick Harmon at the combine, that's one thing I really liked about him, was that he was a very thoughtful guy when it came to talking to him, just as far as media to podium. I thought oftentimes when I see that, I want to see if that translates to being a thinker on the field, and certainly was in that instance. And I think that that's going to be interesting to see how that continues to progress. But the thing is about this defensive line and why it's so huge is that this defensive line is the key to what's going to help stop the run. It's got to keep Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson clean up the middle. It's got to eat up blockers so that it's harder to get your double teams off on TJ Watt, because teams have to honor their inside presence so much. And if they're able to get that kind of difference, at least 4 or 5 difference makers on the D line, on the interior, they don't have to all be starters, but if they're difference makers, that can be the thing that wears down teams throughout games, because you just keep bringing it, and eventually they're going to tire out, and then you're the team that's making the plays late, not the other team. And so I think that they're moving on their way. I think that these guys get it. Keeanu Benton, I'm pretty sure gets it. I've talked to him enough. He looks really good this year. Again, Derrick Harmon, Yahya Black are the main guys there. But there's a lot of potential for this Steelers defensive line. And again, like, they don't have to be the best defensive line in the NFL. They have a really good secondary behind them. They have they have linebackers with them that also are going to play at a high level. So I look at these recent performances and how the D line's doing versus the O line, and I give them a lot of respect for that, because I think that the D line has potential. And again, that's why they made the Derrick Harmon their first round pick. They wanted him to be an immediate contributor. Yahya Black looking like he can also do that. He's involved in the run stuff. He's involved in knocking passes down. They're doing pretty good for themselves right now. And I think that's a really good sign for what the Steelers want to be up front, because if they're stuffing the run, it allows so many other things to work out. And again, if stuffing the run means making sure that you're keeping a lane open for Peyton Wilson or Patrick Queen to see and attack the ball, so be it. You're part of the equation, and that's an important part of the equation. It shouldn't be undervalued. So I think it's a big part of what the Steelers are trying to do right now, is not just teach these defensive tackles and defensive linemen to be able to get after the quarterback and get after the run game, but also to set things up for the teammates behind them to go after him. The example I always use is when Ray Lewis lost his initial defensive tackles like Sam Adams and Tony Saragusa, and the Ravens needed to replenish them. He said how important it was that they get guys like that, because when he can be free all game, it makes him that much more dangerous of a linebacker. Same thing applies to a Patrick Queen, a Cole Holcomb, and a Peyton Wilson. Also, I'd still say Peyton Wilson would have the hold over Cole Holcomb, but Cole Holcomb has looked good in camp. Like he looks ready to go. If they want to deploy some diverse linebacker looks, they got that. But also if they just, if there's times that injuries happen, Patrick Queen or Peyton Wilson need a breather, he looks like he's ready for the part. So I think there's a lot to go off of there. I want to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to keep talking about this defense and how all this defensive line, if they can turn into success, how can it turn into even more success with Alex Highsmith and what they're trying to do around TJ Watt. We'll discuss that next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. We'll be right back. But first, I want to remind you this show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-hour energy transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I'm not a golfer, but I do feel on my game when I go to a Top Golf and I'm able to hit that back net with my driver. Golf is all about the good times with good people and, of course, good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing the Bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is valid only until September 30th. On one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We continue our show here today. Again, I thought the defensive line looked really good in the last two padded practices. They've been getting after it. They've been setting the tone. They've been clearing the space for the linebackers. But at the same time, when you're doing all that, it's going to free up the pass rush a lot more. And it's something that I spent a few episodes talking here and there. And I do think they should move TJ Watt around. And look, they have during these practices. Not an insane amount, not as much as they moved Jalen Ramsey around, but I think there's some method to that madness there to try to keep certain things because TJ Watt's been an all-pro player for most of his career, if not all. But I think that there's an opportunity for the Steelers with the way that they're trying to do things on defense, that if they are a run-stuffing defense, they're going to get more of those third and longs, and it's going to be time for TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith to get aggressive with their game planning, what they want to do, how they want to attack certain players. That's going to be something that I think could be really interesting to watch moving forward. But again, it's not as simple as some people have made it out to be, like, oh, just flip sides and they'll be fine, because as we know, like this down the stretch, teams were basically scheming out TJ Watt and saying, hey, if he's always on the same side, let's just plan our play the other way, send everyone that way, and that's how we're going to operate. The Steelers have a plan to neutralize that, and Alex Highsmith didn't divulge the entire plan or anything like that, but he did give us a hint towards, like, hey, we are moving this, we are moving things around. And again, as a person who's seen all, but I think there's only one practice that I've missed. This is the Steelers are moving the ball a ton right now as far as pre-snap alignment. I think it's going to be huge. Here's Alex Highsmith when we got to asking him that on Sunday.
Switch back.
For you as pass rushers, how tough is it to switch sides? What's the difference doing that?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying to do that just because, I know for us, we've played on the same side, for at least my whole career. I've been on the right, he's been on the left, and also in college my last 2 years I was mainly on the right. And so just really during this camp, just being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because I think it's something that, we need to do just to switch it up, different looks to give different looks to the offense and stuff like that. But I think, we've done a good job of trying to practice that during camp right now.
Even when you're not flipping sides per se, you guys are still moving. Like, you're blitzing A gap, you're going this way, you're going that way. Is that something that you guys have talked a lot more in meetings that you're seeing more out in the practice field this year?
Yeah, I mean, I just think, being more versatile, I think, is always good. And I think that's something that, we're adding. And I think just being able to rush in different gaps and stuff like that, whether it's the A gap or the B gap over a guard over a center, I think just makes us more versatile just as a whole unit.
Did you do anything training to get ready to switch sides and move around?
Yeah, I mean, I was working both sides this offseason. Just when it comes to, working on the run game on that side, working on different moves. And that's like I have I'm not over there often, so when I'm over there, I try to just work a couple moves and stick to those and try to perfect those. And so that's really what I would focus on.
So that's Alex Highsmith bringing things down on how things are going to be different as far as the pass rush and what they're trying to pair things up and how they're trying to pair things up. And listen, I think Alex Highsmith kind of gets it. Like, he's been around the block. He's done the whole, he's been through a lot of experiences. I really think that he's onto something here, or at least revealing something here, that the Steelers aren't necessarily trying to just flip TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith thinking that the results are just going to magically be different. They're trying to see how they can move these guys around and keep you guessing with all these different layers and playing off each other. And that's where I think it's going to get really creative for Terrell Austin, is if he can make that happen. Because if he's able to get a defense that stuffs the run, you're going to force more third and long. You're more third and long. You can be more aggressive with your blitz packages. You're more aggressive with your blitz packages. Usually, the less time a quarterback has to make a decision, and the less time they have to make a decision, the better chance that a guy like Jalen Ramsey, a guy like Joey Porter Jr., a guy like Darius Slay can jump the ball. And I'm telling you, some of these breakups these guys have this weekend, just impressive stuff. Just putting their hand on the ball, saying, "Nope, not here, not today." I've been very impressed by that. I've been very impressed by how this unit plays together so well and how they communicate so well. I think that there's an underappreciated factor to that when it comes to how the Steelers have been trying to operate as an organization and what they're trying to do. They want to make sure that they want to make sure that Watt isn't getting just double and triple team every single rep. You want to try to mask him as best as possible, but you also don't want him to lose his identity. You also want to play at your best. And so I think that's a tough thing to balance, especially when, it's a long off season. But I do think that there is there is a decent plan around how to make this work. And what the Steelers are trying to do with this year, while also preparing for next year, which they still hope will be the quarterback draft year, where they'll be able to go get a guy there. But again, it's all about guys moving around. I've seen Alex Highsmith literally line up in a gap this past week, so I think that that's kind of interesting to see, like how much he's moving around, and and how him and TJ are already figuring things out right now. All that good sign, good thing to experience there. I think if you're the Steelers, if you get those guys going, they're going to be a problem. We've seen it before, and hey, it's going to be interesting to see I think the pads will go back on once more this week. During this week, and then after that, you'll see the preseason game this weekend. So we'll have more on all of these things here. I want to keep track of that, but I got to talk about this offensive line, because I'm talking a lot about the defense and the offensive line. If the defensive line is winning a lot, it means the offense is losing a lot. I'll talk to you about them next here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Stick with us. Be right back. But first, I want to remind you, this show is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute that you needed to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day, and you suddenly realize you want to just be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, and even a bigger invite group. And Gametime makes all of that possible. Gametime makes getting concert tickets also faster and easier than ever. Gametime also makes buying tickets just fast and simple. Prices on the app can actually drop the closer you get to the pitch, to the first pitch of the game if you're going to a baseball game. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best ideal spot? Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. We're continuing our conversation here. I'm not going to play a clip this one. I want to talk about this offensive line because this group is up against it. The Steelers are using a whole lot of new blitz looks this year. They're being very aggressive with learning how to counter these things. And the offensive line is not winning a lot of these. Now, one-on-ones, they can win some. Like I saw Mason McCormick, go up against Derrick Harmon. He won the series 2-1. I think that there are a lot of things going on with this offensive line that need to kind of be put into focus too, is that they haven't had for the majority of camp now, the left side of their offensive line with with Broderick Jones and Isaac Seumalo. Now, Broderick Jones was back from injury on Sunday, and I thought that was interesting because he kind of been trying to get back, but he wasn't fully back. He wasn't fully dressed in pads, and this time he was. He was fully dressed in pads. Watched him play well. He actually he didn't really. Broderick Jones didn't really light it up, but I thought he was better than what I think he was showing he was before he put the pads back on, because during Friday Night Lights, they did a one-on-one period where he was in sweats and shoulder pads and a helmet, and he went up against Alex Highsmith, and he just got dusted 3 times in a row. It was really bad. But put the pads on, let him get situated some years later, and he was able to hold his own. And I thought that was really interesting. He stopped Alex Highsmith. Alex Highsmith did get a groin injury, and so maybe that played a factor. And Broderick Jones is just getting over a groin injury, so it could be the year the groin, never a good thing. But when it comes to the the offensive line, Broderick Jones did win some there. They got to play as a unit still. They're still developing that, getting off on the same foot, being more exact with things. But I do think that this offensive line can make progress and is making progress. Broderick Jones went from it was really tough for a while, but this last practice, I think, especially closer to the end of practice, I saw some feistiness out of Barack that can suggest, like, okay, he can figure this out. He just won't be a liability all the time. That's where I think it's going to be really interesting to see if Broderick Jones and this offensive line can work out this season. And we've seen them work out individually. We've seen them, the light push of last year with things. I think there's potential with this offensive line, and I'm going to continue to say this every time until I'm proven wrong. But everyone's looking at Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's looking at DK Metcalf. I'm looking at this offensive line. I'm also looking at the defensive line. Like, even they did 7-on-7 on Sunday, and I went down to the other field and I was like, I want to watch the linemen go at it, because that's the thing that I'm here to see. And I do got some notes here, I believe, from my watching that group. But like Broderick Jones, he split with Nick Herbig. I thought that was pretty solid. Derrick Harmon lined up on the edge and was able to pretty consistently win there against the backup tackle. The offense did have some pushback. And it was funny, actually. Kyle Black lost some of his reps in this drill, but he dominates the 11-on-11 periods because he's always in the way. And he's getting people for tackles of loss, or he's tipping passes. Very interesting stuff there. But as far as the offensive line, I think that especially if Broderick Jones, if this is the start of Broderick Jones getting himself acclimated, getting himself to truly understand what he needs to be doing this year, that could go a long way for the Steelers this year. Because if he's good, like if he's solid and that works, I think this could be a really good opportunity for the Steelers offensive line to work on their chemistry and to try to build connection with each other. I think that's going to be huge for this offensive line to succeed early. And I've said it a million times, you can say about Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, all these new faces, Jalen Ramsey. I truly think it's going to be coming down to this offensive line that makes the biggest difference. If this offensive line turns out to be really good and really sharp, it will echo, and it will it will bounce off of everyone else. It will help everyone else around the Steelers, and it'll make them a more complete team. Because if Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to worry about being skittish because of the pass rush, that could go a long way for the Steelers to finally get that offensive line that they've been building for some time. I think it's going to be interesting with Omar Khan, because again, like Broderick Jones kind of needs to make it work this year, right? He's a third year guy now, but at the end of your third year, that's when you start looking for those fifth round options, and or you're looking to prove yourself that you deserve a rookie extension on your rookie contract for the 5th year option. So this is a big year for him to prove to Omar Khan that, yeah, I'm worth the money. And that's something I'll be keeping my eye on a lot, but also seeing how this crew gels, because I think we can all agree Zach Frazier looks really impressive as an individual when he plays, but sometimes when he's part of the line, he's part, if they're all messing up, then he's messing up. But I think Zach Frazier, you put him in one-on-one settings, he does fine. I think Mason McCormick does really fine in one-on-one settings. I saw Derrick Harmon do fine in those settings, and it makes me think like, okay, cool, got it. Different, this offensive line is starting to figure things out. You're moving guys, you're moving guys around, and look, you're dealing with injuries too. Like they're seeing depth challenges across the board. Broderick Jones missed a lot of time. That meant Calvin Anderson stepped in, but then Calvin Anderson got hurt, and so they, now they've got in. Now they're trying to move guys around because now Spencer Anderson, who was a guard, is playing tackle, and they're moving guys all over the place. And I think it's going to be really interesting with this offensive line. Can they protect Aaron Rodgers? That's the bottom line, because when Aaron Rodgers trusts his protection, they're going to be a unit that allows him to just stand in the pocket, see the field, make the throw, and do so on time. That's going to be interesting to see if they can do that. If they can be that kind of a offensive line where they're able to protect Aaron Rodgers, that'll be a big step. But also they got to get good at running the ball, because that's something that I think that is still going to need to be a staple of this offense. But it doesn't have to be. I don't think it has to be like the team doesn't have to live and die by the run all the time. But I do think it's going to be a vital, important part of this offense, and they're going to need to. They're going to need to be able to get this group going and get them to coalesce, and it's going to take time to do that. But first things first, they got to start winning more of their individual drills, and then the offensive line needs to start coming together, forming their own culture, and becoming part of something bigger than them, and not get their name called during the game. Because if your name's called during the game, that means you probably did something. Offensive linemen are usually the guys that are seen and not heard. So I think that right now Broderick Jones, that practice, because the Friday Night Lights practice, he lost 3 straight to Highsmith. I was like, oh boy, this looks rough. But then he bounced back. He beat Herbig. He did some things. I was like, okay, I see what's going on there. So he has to keep that up. He has to take the steps forward. If he does, good for him. Then I think it's going to work for him. But there's got to be others that got to be ready. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do. Troy Fautanu, I'll say this: I think he looks maybe the best of the offensive line, which is crazy because Zach Frazier, I think has been that. But Troy Fautanu looking pretty solid right now, and no real complaints as far as how he's operated so far. I think that he's kind of the leader the Steelers want in the future, and he's a player right now who's a pretty good player. They're very excited to see what he brings to the table, certainly, because I think that this offensive line, they've got the juice, they've got power, they've got they're a little short in stature as a number, but I think that they're going to be an interesting group to see how they play out with what they're trying to do and how they're trying to pick up this new Arthur Smith offense, because that's the other part of this is, picking up on the Arthur Smith offense, trying to learn all the ins and outs. That's going to be an interesting process for them to go through. So definitely, we'll keep an eye on this. We'll keep an eye on that here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. As I said before, the Steelers are off tomorrow, but we'll still have many more things to discuss about, including more clips that I got from training camp of talking to guys. We'll get to all that here throughout the week, and then practice resumes Tuesday right here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Thanks again for tuning into the Locked On Steelers podcast. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, on all the social medias at Carter Critiques. You can read my work in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by going to post-gazette.com. You can find me here on the Locked On Steelers podcast every day, Monday through Friday, breaking down your Pittsburgh Steelers. Back here tomorrow with another episode of the Locked On Steelers podcast.